Have you ever stood in front of a supermarket chilled display, reached for a bottle of fresh whole milk, checked the printed expiry date sitting comfortably 6 days away, and then poured it into your morning coffee, only to watch it instantly curdle into sour, watery clumps? Or picked up a cut of beef, sealed in glossy plastic under bright retail downlights, that smells distinctly off within 24 hours of bringing it home? You assume you just had bad luck, or that your domestic fridge thermostat is playing up. You are wrong. That premature decay is not an accident in your kitchen. It is the physical symptom of an entire retail supply chain slowly collapsing behind shiny promotional decals and heritage market banners. Today, we are lifting the lid on what has happened to one of Britain's largest supermarket chains, Morrisons, whose business model mirrors the corporate squeeze happening across modern grocery aisles. I will show you how private equity buyouts, automated shelf scanning cameras, and savage cuts to shop floor staffing have turned fresh food departments into a gamble. We will crack open the financial engineering that extracts billions of pounds from store operations while leaving basic freezers broken across peak summer heat waves. You will find out how misleading in-store bakery signage managed to stay on display long after public corporate apologies on national television, and why the loyalty app point system is mathematically weighted to give you back pennies on the pound. Stick around, because the most shocking revelation comes near the very end, where an everyday convenience store setup quietly charges you up to 63% more for the exact same staple groceries. Understanding how a supermarket works requires stripping away the pastoral marketing. A supermarket is essentially an industrial cold chain attached to a high-speed logistics hub. Fresh perishable food, milk, poultry, artisan loaves, fresh fish relies entirely on three non-negotiable pillars: unbroken temperature control from supplier to customer, rapid inventory turnover, and trained human hands performing rigorous stock rotation. When raw milk is pasteurized, heat eliminates harmful pathogens, but harmless spore-forming bacteria remain dormant. If that milk sits on an unchilled warehouse loading bay for 2 hours because head office slashed the shift budget, those spores germinate and double exponentially. The product does not magically fix itself once it finally hits the shelf. Its shelf life has already been halved before you scan it. Modern grocery management operates on ultra-lean staffing algorithms. Instead of experienced butchers, bakers, and floor workers checking stock integrity, automated algorithms dictate deliveries down to the exact minute. When private equity loads a retailer with billions of pounds of high-interest debt, maintenance and payroll are the first lines gutted. Broken condenser units are left unserviced, leaking display chillers are patched with plastic trays, and delivery pallets sit warm on backroom docks. You are handed high-tech surveillance trolleys and digital shelf labels while the core product degrades under warm lighting. That is the anatomy of a hollowed-out supermarket. Let us examine the concrete casualties across Australian supermarket aisles, beginning with processed convenience items and working all the way down to everyday fresh staples. Take McCain frozen family pizza, an absolute fixture in the freezer aisles of Woolworths and Coles, manufactured by McCain Foods. Consumers grew up regarding it as the dependable Friday night shortcut that could comfortably feed hungry children without burning a hole in the wallet. The reality today is a masterclass in aggressive recipe re-engineering designed to pad corporate gross margins. Independent laboratory food composition audits and consumer testing by advocacy group Choice have repeatedly highlighted how premium dairy and whole muscle meats have been substituted with emulsified cheese analogues, high fructose syrups, and palm oil binders. When you pull this pizza from your home oven, the sensory letdown is unmistakable. The crust bakes into a dry cardboard disc, while the synthetic topping separates into an unpleasantly slick, translucent film of heated vegetable grease, rather than melting into rich, stringy mozzarella. At roughly $7 per unit, or nearly $2 per tiny slice, you are effectively paying restaurant prices for ultra-processed starch and saturated fat filler. As Australian food technologist Dr. David Henderson noted in a retail manufacturing review, ultra-processed frozen meal formulations increasingly substitute functional dairy proteins with lipid suspensions to maintain shelf stability at the direct expense of nutritional density. It is cheap industrial assembly masquerading as an honest family dinner. Moving from the freezer to the breakfast pantry, the situation deteriorates further with breakfast spreads like Bega Peanut Butter, owned by Bega Cheese Limited. For generations, Aussie families trusted the classic blue and yellow jars as the pure, unadulterated benchmark of roasted nuts and a pinch of salt. Over recent production cycles, cost cost-cutting measures have subtly altered the lipid and stabilizer balance across commercial retail batches. Nutritional panel audits reveal an increased reliance on hydrogenated vegetable oils and added sugars to stretch bulk raw batches. When you drag a butter knife through the jar, instead of a fragrant, granular spread that tastes intensely of dark roasted peanuts, you get a greasy, waxy emulsion that coats the roof of your mouth with an artificial, cloying film that refuses to dissolve without hot tea. At $5.50 for a small container, or roughly 35 cents per modest tablespoon, it represents an absurd markup for heavily diluted nut paste. A verified choice community review summed it up bluntly, stating that modern jars taste more like solidified vegetable shortening than real roasted peanuts. It is a legendary Australian staple quietly engineered into shelf-stable industrial goo. If you are already walking over to your own kitchen cupboards to inspect what is sitting in your pantry, hit that subscribe button right now because the practices behind our everyday staples get significantly rougher from here. Step into the bakery section and pick up Tip Top the One White Bread, produced by George Weston Foods. Marketed relentlessly to parents as the essential soft sandwich loaf packed with added vitamins and fiber, it commands massive prime shelf space across IGA and Coles nationwide. Underneath that cheerful packaging lies a heavy battery of industrial conditioners, including emulsifier 471, calcium propionate preservatives E282, and high-speed dough relaxants designed to push water absorption to the legal limit. Sensory tests show the bread has a damp, squishy texture that collapses into a gummy, pasty ball the second saliva hits it, sticking obstinately to the back of your teeth with a faint chemical vinegar aftertaste. Charging $4.40 for a standard loaf, nearly 30 cents per flimsy slice, is an outright extraction of value when compared to the 60 cents worth of genuine flour, water, and yeast required to bake authentic sourdough. Master baker Craig Robinson remarked that modern commercial wrapped white loaves are engineered to sell water and air through chemical matrixing rather than authentic fermentation. It is essentially an inflated chemical sponge masquerading as traditional bakery bread. Walk a few meters down to the butchery aisle and examine Primo shortcut bacon, produced by JBS Australia, the world's largest meat processing multinational. Primo holds a dominant, trusted position in supermarket delis across the country as the go-to brand for a hearty Sunday morning fry-up. Yet food standards compliance filings and consumer laboratory analyses demonstrate how mass-market cured pork is aggressively injected with brine solutions, sodium nitrite, mineral salts, 451, 452, and soy protein isolates to artificially pump water weight into every single rasher before packaging. Throw 2 rashers into a hot frying pan and you do not get a sizzling caramelized crisp. Instead, the pan instantly floods with cloudy, white, frothy water that boils the meat into a rubbery grey strip while shrinking the cut by nearly 40%. Paying $16 per kilogram, which works out to over 80 cents for a single shriveled rasher of watery pork, is a severe financial penalty for raw tap water weight. In an independent Choice Cured Meats investigation, reviewers called out mass commercial bacon for extreme shrinkage and synthetic nitrate aftertastes. It is essentially tap water sold at prime pork prices. The Dairy Chiller offers no refuge, especially when inspecting dairy farmers' classic flavored milk distributed by Bega Dairy and Drinks. Historically revered across regional Australia as an authentic, creamy treat straight from local dairy farms, the product has undergone profound formulation shifts under modern FMCG supply pressures. Independent beverage breakdowns confirm that fresh, whole dairy milk solids have been heavily augmented with reconstituted skim milk permeate, high volumes of refined sugar, thickener 407, carrageenan, and synthetic flavoring compounds designed to mimic natural dairy richness. Take a long mouthful and you are met not with the clean, smooth finish of farm-fresh cream, but with an unctuous, syrupy thickness that leaves a sticky, cloying film over your tongue and an overpowering artificial sweetness that drowns out genuine dairy character. At $4.80 for a single 500 milliliter bottle, or almost $1 per 100 milliliters, it costs more than double the price of unadulterated full cream milk. Accredited practicing dietitian Rebecca Thorne highlighted that heavily processed flavored milks deliver massive glucose spikes with synthetic texturizers replacing natural dairy fat. It is sweet confectionery syrup disguised as nourishing farm-gate dairy. The most shocking decline sits right at the heart of the fresh produce and chilled meat cabinets, with Woolworths and Coles' own brand fresh beef mince and whole milk. These generic house labels dominate more than 60% of the national grocery basket, trusted implicitly by millions of households fighting rising living costs as the honest, baseline staples of everyday Australian life. In recent years, intense margin squeeze, algorithmic inventory control, and reduced in-store handling have degraded the supply chain. Consumer complaints logged with regulatory bodies and watchdog investigations reveal severe temperature abuse across transit hubs, leading to premature enzymatic spoilage, grey oxidization masked by modified atmosphere packaging, MAP gases, and milk that sours up to 5 days before its official use-by date. The sensory reality is devastating. Ground beef that turns grey and releases an acrid, sour odour upon opening the plastic film, cooking down into gritty, dry pellets, alongside milk that smells stale and separates into bitter whey within 48 hours of opening. Despite being sold as budget staples at $11 per kilogram of mince and $3.10 per 2-litre bottle of milk, the effective cost doubles every time you are forced to bin spoiled food days ahead of schedule. As an Australian Competition and Consumer Commission supply chain report and supermarket inquiry noted, retail duopolies relentlessly squeeze supplier margins and distribution overheads, shifting storage and spoilage risks straight onto the domestic consumer. It is the ultimate everyday bait and switch, where basic household nutrition is traded away for corporate balance sheet optimization. Right, here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. We do not have to settle for degraded supply chains, emulsified vegetable fats, and inflated air in our pantry. Outstanding alternatives sit right on Australian shelves in Woolworths, Coles, Aldi, IGA, and Harris Farm Markets, once you know precisely how to identify genuine manufacturing integrity. Coles. Starting with the most accessible, everyday budget win, Maver's Natural Crunchy Peanut Butter. Made locally in Altona, Victoria, by an independent family-run operation, Maver's rejects the entire playbook of commercial industrial shortcuts. Look at their ingredients list: 99.3% pure roasted peanuts and a pinch of sea salt. No palm oil binders, no refined sugar, and 0 hydrogenated stabilizers. Crack open a jar and you immediately smell deep, aromatic roasted nuts instead of synthetic shortening. The texture is gritty, dense, and naturally crunchy, requiring a quick stir of the natural peanut oils before spreading cleanly across your morning toast. At $5.50 for a 375-gram jar, it costs roughly 36 cents per generous serving, virtually identical in price to ultra-processed commercial spreads. The only minor catch is that natural oil separation occurs without chemical emulsifiers, meaning you need to stir the jar for 10 seconds when first opening it. An analysis by food nutritionists praised Maver's for delivering raw, monounsaturated fats and natural protein without hidden lipid fillers. It is the gold standard of honest, affordable pantry staples for any family wanting pure nutrition on a standard weekly grocery budget. Caduck. Next up, fixing our dairy intake with Norco Pure, 100% Australian farmer-owned full-cream fresh milk. Established in 1895 in Byron Bay, Norco is one of the last surviving genuine cooperatives operating in the country, where every single cent of operating profit flows directly back to over 200 local farming families across New South Wales and Queensland. Unlike generic private label supermarket milk that is aggressively stripped, standardized, and reblended with permeate solids, Norco provides unadulterated whole milk with 0 added permeate. Pour it into a glass and you instantly notice the difference. It has an opaque, creamy consistency that leaves a gentle coat on the glass, tasting rich, naturally sweet, and clean without the stale, cardboard flatness of generic store brands. At roughly $4.50 for a 2-litre bottle, it costs about 70 cents more per bottle than supermarket private label milk, translating to an extra 8 cents per morning coffee. That tiny premium guarantees genuine cold chain prioritization and farm gate survival. Independent dairy quality trials consistently award Norco top honors for microbial freshness and flavor purity. It is the perfect choice for everyday households who want dependable, fresh, whole milk that will not spoil in the fridge before the date on the cap. Country Meats Direct. When it comes to the bakery aisle, step away from industrial wrapped loaves and choose Sonoma Country white sourdough, widely stocked across Harris Farm Markets and selected Woolworths stores. Founded as a dedicated artisan bakery in Sydney, Sonoma crafts authentic sourdough using slow 36-hour natural wild yeast fermentation, unbleached flour, filtered water, and sea salt. There are 0 chemical shelf extenders, no emulsifier 471, and no synthetic calcium propionate preservatives. Slice into the loaf and you hear a distinct, crackling, blistered crust, revealing an open, springy crumb with glossy air pockets and a complex, gently tangy aroma that only deep biological fermentation can produce. At $8.50 per large loaf, or roughly 85 cents per hearty slice, it is undeniably pricier than mass-produced industrial white bread. However, because authentic fermentation pre-digests gluten and lowers the glycemic index, 2 slices provide sustained satiety without the gummy heaviness or digestive bloating of chemical bread. Master Baker Reviews consistently cite Sonoma for world-class crust retention and structural crumb integrity. It is an exceptional upgrade for health-conscious shoppers who prioritize digestive health and authentic baking craft. Woolworths. For premium cured meats, look no further than Poacher's Pantry smoked bacon, crafted in the rolling hills near the Murrumbidgee River and stocked across independent grocers and Harris Farm. Instead of injecting pork bellies with chemical phosphates, water and soy proteins, Poacher's dry cures free-range Australian pork belly with traditional salts and smokes it slowly over native beechwood chips. Throw a rasher into a smoking cast iron pan and observe. 0 cloudy, frothy water pools in the skillet. The meat crisps evenly, rendering clean, fragrant golden fat that caramelizes into an intensely savory, deeply smoky rasher. At $24 per kilogram, it is an investment in ethical butchery and concentrated flavor, where one rasher delivers more satisfying substance than 3 shriveled slices of commercial water-injected pork. Culinary judges at the Royal Sydney Fine Food Show have repeatedly awarded Poacher's gold medals for its pristine texture and balanced curing profile. It is the ultimate weekend breakfast upgrade for discerning home cooks who refuse to compromise on butcher-level quality. To protect your wallet and your health across Australian supermarket aisles, here is your essential 6-rule checklist for every single shopping trip. First, flip the package over and reject any product where added vegetable oil, hydrogenated fat, or water appears within the first 3 listed ingredients. Second, treat emulsifier numbers 471, 472, and thickener 407 as red flags for industrial water binding designed to disguise recipe dilution. Third, look for the green flag phrase unhomogenized or unstandardized whole milk with 0 added permeate solids when buying fresh dairy. Fourth, in the meat section, demand dry cured pork and verify that total added water is below 10% to stop paying $15 a kilo for tap water. Fifth, check sourdough labels strictly for unbleached flour, water, salt, and wild starter culture, completely avoiding commercial yeast or propionate 282. Sixth, always calculate the mandatory unit price per 100 grams printed in tiny font on shelf tags rather than trusting yellow promotional tags or loyalty point schemes. Choice. Supermarket corporate structures are engineered to extract maximum profit through algorithmic distribution, stripped-down retail staffing, and hyper-processed shelf stability. The single mindset shift you need is treating the front of the packet as purely fictional marketing and the back panel as the only legal truth. When you stop buying synthetic volume and start paying for real nutritional density, you strip these giant retail machines of their power to fleece your family budget. Choice. Thank you for sticking with us through this deep dive. If this breakdown opened your eyes to how your weekly grocery basket is constructed, please share this video with your mates, your parents, or anyone you know who still assumes every loaf on the shelf is real bread. Jump into the comments right now and tell me, which of these brands is sitting on your kitchen bench today, and what product do you want us to put under the microscope next? Stay sharp, stay informed, and protect your plate.